Hello, this is Warlord Nipple's tutorials, and this will be a tutorial on trade. The country that I think is the best suited for trade in the game right now is the Netherlands. This is a game I completed a while ago that will just show you how to place merchants and the benefits of trade and how to create a strong trade empire. As you can see, I have a pretty good amount of land. I could have expanded more in Europe, but I was trying to focus more on trade. And if you come over here and look at trade, you see I make $1,300 or 300 ducats, sorry, a month on trade, and that is 76% of my income. So my trade is far, like, declaring war on France or Austria or something would not bring as many benefits as I could get from taking a few provinces overseas from trade at this point. I get 1,000 income a month while maintaining 271 armies and over 1,000 fleets. I believe France has a few more. Nope. I have the largest military in the game, so as you can see, taking more land would not be a huge benefit to me. Though at least the land in Europe. We can go to the trade map. I'll explain some basic things about trade and then get a little bit more in depth. The first thing you might notice on the trade map, well, besides these arrows, these are, I guess I can just make this a whole, you know, just 100% tutorial where I talk about everything. These are your trade nodes, these large boxes. These are basically just all this province is I'm trying to think of a good way to describe these because they're so conceptual. They really are just how much money. It's such a weird thing to think about in this game to try and bring it into the real world. But they are your province, like the province is here. See, it's highlighted. The English Channel, and it shows Breda belongs to the English Channel. So all these provinces give trade trade value to this. See, the local is plus 35 right there, and then you can also pull trade value from other trade nodes. Like this is receiving trade power from Chesapeake Bay, from this trade node. And it's important to keep in mind the end trade nodes, or what people call the end trade nodes, and those are Sevilla, Bordeaux, Venice, and the English Channel. And what that basically means is that trade goes into them, but no trade comes out. Like the trade value goes into them and no trade value comes out. See, it says, see how all the arrows are pointing in, none of them are pointing out, like as in Genoa has these 3 arrows pointing out. Another thing you might notice, these even smaller boxes, when you put a merchant there, that allows you to pick which direction the trade goes. This is where you're pushing trade, basically, or how much trade is being pushed if you don't have a merchant there. Like 4 trade is being pushed from Rhineland to the English Channel, whereas 35.95 ducats worth of trade is being pushed to Lubeck. So that helps you determine exactly where the trade is going. You can follow it just to figure out exactly where the trade is. In this game, I'm the Netherlands, and I'm taking over a lot of the China coast. This is my country. We can just follow some trade from a big... I guess this isn't even a beginning trade node. Here's one of the beginning trade nodes, I guess. We'll go with We'll go with Manchuria. There's not a whole lot. Some of these are very weak and don't have a lot of trade going into them, but this one is the very first trade node. No trade is going into it, but trade is coming out of it. So I'll just follow it to my home trade node, which is where you will generally collect all of your trade. Everything else will be pushing to your home trade node, which is the trade node that your capital is in. So my capital is in, where is my capital? It's in Friesland. There's my capital, and it's in the English trade node. So you can collect trade from any node, but the easiest place to do it in is your home trade node, and you will always collect there even without a merchant. So let's start here, and we'll follow it all the way to my end trade node. Now, this shows, if you hover over each of these little flags below the trade node, it shows how much power each country wields in these trade nodes. And these guys are not... and then this below where it's transferring shows what they're doing with their power. So Oichi has 144.07 power in this trade node, which is 20% of the trade node. So 20% of 4.5. And they are using all of their power to push towards Nippon, which is where their home trade node is. Great Britain, and to get power in a trade node, you generally need provinces near it or boats near it. And being more modern gives you more power. So Great Britain has 100 some power in it. And to figure out where they're getting that from, you can just hover over this. It shows you from current provinces and transfers from traders downstream. They have a province right here, and they have some provinces up here which are part of the node. This is the Girin trade node, so they're getting trade power from these provinces. And so, and I'm not, and what they, even though they don't have a merchant, this shows they have a merchant pushing it. Britain is transferring trade out, and they're pushing it this way to Nippon. As you can see, they have some trade power there too. But before getting any more in depth into this, let's just follow the trade. So we have 4.5 here that's staying here. There's a total of 14.8 total. So we take 2.3, 4.5, and 9.19, and that will come out to be 14.8. There's no incoming trade, and there's 10.22 outgoing, which is 9.19 plus 2.3. Our trade node will be this way, so we're following this 9.19. It's going into Nippon's trade node, which is Japan. Oichi, I guess. He hasn't formed Japan yet for some reason. That's going into this node, which I have some power in, 100.61. I am using that power, and then that is getting put. Some of that, 4.8 of that, is being pushed to Hangzhou. In Hangzhou, they have 18 trade. They have 18 trade being produced by their provinces, and 5.22 is coming from Nippon. That's because when trade comes into a province, some trade value is added the longer it's been traveling. So it's kind of like a multiplier. So if you can push trade from this province all the way back to Europe, you'll have a huge trade multiplier. That's basically to show there's demand for goods in that area, like something that is being produced, some goods that are being produced around here, even though all the goods are the same. If something is produced in Girin and then is pushed all the way to a totally different market, the trade value will increase the farther away that market is. It's, it's like having an import. So if you were to buy, with globalization now, it's not that huge of a difference, but in the 1900s, if you were to have silk from China, it would be more expensive than silk made in I'm from America, or it would be more expensive than the silk that's made here, because it's farther away and people perceive it as being, better or whatever. But let's continue following the trade. So because I control so much trade power and other Europeans control so much trade power here, all of this trade is outgoing almost. 21.48, only 1.76 is staying here, and I'm guessing that's being collected by Ming. So 13.75 is going to Malacca. That is down. We're just following the arrows. That is right here. Malacca. They're this blue area. I control a lot of trade here, and this is a very good node in Asia. This is probably the best Asian node because it has many arrows going in. The more arrows going in and the fewer going out, the better a trade node will be generally. That's very dependent upon dependent upon the trade power of the provinces of the arrows going in. But as you can see, before we were dealing with, you know, this had 20 trade power total, like a 25-ish total, well, 23 total, and now we're at this province, at Malacca, we are at local 31.93 and incoming 89.79. So we went from about 23 to now about 120 trade power total. And that's because this has almost all the East Asian trade goes through this node, and it also has a lot of good provinces around here that help that have goods that are very rare in most of the rest of the world. I'm pushing 98.87 of that towards, you can hover over here and find out what's going towards Zanzibar. So let's zoom out a little bit and we can just follow these arrows going over to Zanzibar. Here's Zanzibar. I almost entirely control this node myself. As you can see, I took over Kilwa and Mutapa. And so no trade power stays here. We have 206 trade power incoming and 19.6 is local. Again, local is what's produced in these provinces. So I've got ivory and some gold being produced, which increases the trade power. The current price and any modifiers is what gives you that trade power. So this ivory is worth, you know, so much money because which increases the trade power over here, which you can increase with multipliers and things like that, giving you more ducats in trade power. So all of this, so Zanzibar can only be transferred in one direction, that's why I don't have a merchant there, but all of it is getting transferred out to the Cape of Good Hope, which is right here. And the Cape of Good Hope can only transfer in one direction, and barring something very catastrophic happening to Portugal, Spain, or Great Britain, they will always transfer all the trade power out of there, because no one will generally collect unless it's unless they're a human player or unless the AI's capital is there. So he is not adding very much trade power here. Yeah, it's mostly slaves, which are not very important this late in the game. But all of that is getting pushed towards the Ivory Coast. All the trade power here, so the 226 incoming plus the 4.3 that is local, all of that is going to no retained trade value. 100% is being pushed forward. All of that is going to the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast is here. I control a lot of the Ivory Coast, and Great Britain, who also his home node is the English Channel, so he pushes it in the same direction, controls a large portion of that. And as you can see, there's 4 different directions it can go. To the Caribbean, to Bordeaux, and to Sevilla, and to the English Channel. Because England and I both control so much trade here, we push almost all of the trade here to the English Channel. I push 57% of the trade, and he pushes 22%. And as you can see, there's some local trade being produced here in the Congo and in the coast right here. And then 270 incoming. That's all incoming from the Cape of Good Hope and from Brazil, these 2 arrows going towards it. Now we can follow this 301.47 ducats from the Ivory Coast. We can just follow the arrows. It's still this arrow, still right here. It's coming through here. It gets very complicated here, but you can still see it over. I think I was following the wrong arrow that whole time, actually. See, it's just very hard to follow this. Yeah, I was following the wrong arrow. This is this arrow, this is this arrow, and this is this arrow. So we're following this arrow. We're following, it's the outside one right now. It's coming around here. It's going up through Hatton Bank. It's going to come through the English Channel and go right to the English Channel trade node here. And so then we have 301, you can see right there, 301 incoming from the Ivory Coast. And that added value is how much increased value that trade has because it's come from far away. So, and that's always a percentage of the trade, and I don't know how to figure that out, but just the more trade, it gives you a little bit. I think it's around, you know, maybe 10 or 11%, depending on where the trade node is coming from. So that's how you follow the trade that from Giran all the way around to the English Channel. And I think I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to make another video that talks about, that's going to be part 2 basically, but that was just the beginning of trade, just to get you a little bit digested on it.